All right, ready for the vocal warm-ups?
You gonna sing that one song that you always sing?
Silent night,
Holy night,
all is calm,
all is
bright.
right. I kept thinking like quite. I was like, that's
All
not
is
right.
quite lovely. What's the
right.
song I always sing? I forget right now. Yeah,
I
it's
don't
like
know names.
right when you need it. Yeah, but do you know the sound?
Yeah, if you sung it,
You got it.
bro. I'm not an audio person. I don't know.
You're the one
these
who
things.
hears it. I only say it, so I don't know what it
I
is.
don't know these things. It's like a rock song. I don't know. It's,
Here we go again. I kind of want to be more than friends. I don't know.
not that rock song. It's like
It's on the tip of your tongue.
it really is.
I'll do it next time. You'll know what it is. You'll hear me. You just gotta
Something
look.
about like a girlfriend or something, or a stripper or something.
Oh no! I know. Shot. All the things you do when you're going down on me.
That's it.
In between the sheets, all the sounds you make. Yeah, that's it. Stuck in my head all the time. I was gonna say go back and check the footage and you'll find it on almost every episode.
We should definitely keep this in the episode.
Everyone wants to hear this.
They do. This makes us more relatable. Welcome to Backseat Directing.
Where we talk about movies, TV shows, comics, and more.
We're your hosts,
Andrew.
and Aaron.
And today we are going to be going over our shared ranking for Marvel's movies in the cinematic universe.
3, 2, 1, action. All right, Andrew, you said it. We're ranking the MCU in this episode. I'm excited for this one. There are 29 MCU movies, so we are not including any of the TV shows, just the MCU movies.
We are also only including main MCU canon movies, despite the fact that Sam Raimi's Spider-Man movies are in a way in the continuity because of Spider-Man No Way Home. We're going to be including just the ones starting with the timeline beginning at Captain America, the First Avenger, and moving forward with the main continuity.
Yeah.
No
so
X-Men,
no
none
X-Men,
of that.
right.
No Fantastic Four.
All right, so we're going to go ahead and jump right in. We're going to start at the bottom of the list. In 29th place, we have The Incredible Hulk.
And it's,
I feel like that one's not very surprising, right?
it's a well-earned spot on the list.
Yeah. So this is the average of our two lists.
So Aaron, how was this our shared list?
Yeah, so we added all of the points together and divided them by 29, and then we got the average. If we got a tie, we just determined which one we collectively liked better, and we put that one first.
Yeah, we argued back and forth a little bit.
Yes. But in our list, I put this one at 27th, and you put this one at 26th, making it a 1 point difference for us.
So that's a pretty close agreement. I mean, I put it down very low on my list, bottom 4, because it's a different actor. So the planning for the MCU isn't quite there yet. The movie overall is like pretty entertaining in a lot of ways, but it doesn't feel like it has that same it factor.
It just doesn't feel like it's a part of the MCU universe.
For a lot of reasons, more than just the being Edward Norton.
Now, it's been a long time since I've seen this movie. But the parts of it that I remember are all the cool parts. Of seeing the Hulk be the Hulk.
Oh, it's great when he fights Abomination and when he jumps out of that that walkway.
Yeah.
When he jumps through that and starts fighting the soldiers on the lawn. Great scenes.
In my head, the CGI is great and the fights are awesome.
I feel like the Hulk looks really good.
Yeah.
I think he looks good in that movie.
Yeah. So it could be higher on the list if maybe it connected to the universe a little bit better.
But story-wise, despite the fact that I've seen it more than once, I couldn't tell you like many characters' names or much about the plot. Like you said, I remember the cool action scenes. But what is our number 28 spot?
28th spot. 28th spot, we have Thor: The Dark World.
And honestly, in my opinion, second to last is way too high for this movie.
Too high?
I think this movie was at my 29 spot, and that was an easy decision to make. Where did you have it?
I had it at the 23rd spot.
Yeah, so I think that this movie is super forgettable as a movie, super forgettable villain, felt very forced with the ether, forcing the Infinity Stones into the plot, whereas none of the other Infinity Stones to me felt forced into their movies. I did not enjoy this movie. I enjoyed that they switched Thor's hair, but that might have even started in Age of Ultron.
Well, this movie
predates.
Yeah, it was before Age of Ultron.
This
movie is before or right after the first Avengers.
So making his hair better was the only improvement. There's a good Loki scene or two. There's two really good Loki lines.
I think I like this movie more than most people. All right, 27th spot, we have Black Widow.
And I think Black Widow got carried down the list because of me being a hater.
Yes. You ranked that at 28th, and I ranked that not too much higher at 24th.
Yeah, I like the villain. I like the gender swap. I think it's cool having Taskmaster be from the Red Room. I don't like that this movie came out after the character Black Widow was already dead, and that it was kind of an earlier point. It came out. I mean, we have movies that are prequels, going back like Captain Marvel or Captain America: First Avenger, going way back in time. But this movie just came out at a weird time after Avengers Endgame. Scarlett Johansson's character is already dead.
Yeah, it was like 5 to 3 years too late, kind of thing.
There's almost no what did it move the universe forward? It didn't really. I mean,
well, we got
the introduction of Yelena, but
exactly, and that kind of seemed like the whole purpose of the film. I kind of agree with you. It kind of just wasn't necessary at this point.
Yeah.
Right. I think it would have been much better if it was before Endgame and Infinity War.
Well, Red Guardian's going to be in a project as well, isn't he?
He is.
Yeah,
but I think Yelena is kind of a higher priority.
Yeah.
All right, 26th place, we have Ant-Man and the Wasp. I had that ranked at 26th place, and you had that at the 23rd spot.
Yeah, so we had a few ties, so that's how that worked out, getting Ant-Man and the Wasp down there. But I enjoyed that movie. I think it's really funny. One of the funnier Marvel movies in general.
Yeah, just because movies are low on our list doesn't mean they're necessarily bad movies. They're just not our favorites in comparison to all the other Marvel movies.
Honestly, Thor: The Dark World might even just be like an average, slightly below average movie in my opinion. Yeah. Marvel movies are all good, so having a bad spot on this list, like you said, it doesn't. But this movie is our first appearance of what's his name? Is it Park? The actor is Kendall Park, but the FBI agent.
Oh, yes.
He is great in this movie. He's super funny.
Wasn't he in the first Ant-Man, though?
No, this is his first appearance because he's on the team for Scott being on house arrest or probation. I
think that's kind of why I had this one so low, is that I just don't remember a lot of it.
I think that having Ghost in it is actually like an interesting villain, one of the more interesting villains in the MCU.
Yeah.
So
you said, it was funny. I enjoyed the movie. It's just been a while since I've seen it, and I don't remember it as much as the other movies. Even the other movies that I've only seen once or twice.
I don't feel like a love for this movie, and I can't necessarily put my finger right on why.
For me, I feel like it's just I don't have as strong of a connection to Ant-Man.
Yeah, I love Paul Rudd.
Invested in that character.
I'm not as invested in Paul Rudd or Hank Pym. I like the Ant-Man presence in the world, like the Pym Industries arrow in the Hawkeye episode was like one of the coolest things in that whole show. But
all right, moving on to the 25th spot, we have Thor, the first one.
Yeah, that movie to me gets better upon rewatch. So I had it really low on my list at 24. But that's because I hate the trend of movies where they take the hero's power away. And that movie is just a powerless Thor for like a good 2/3 of the movie.
Yeah, he's really trying to figure himself out, which is a common theme in all of the other Thor movies as well.
But he's always changing. That's why he's always trying to figure it out. But like, I don't want to see Donald Blake. I want to see Thor. And like the opening of that movie is super badass when he fights the frost giants. But then we had him just walking around, not able to lift his own hammer. But I like the character journey of him becoming worthy. The moment of transformation at the end where he fights.
It's like a necessary story.
Yeah, it's necessary for his growth, and it puts him in a good position to like move forward and be a member of the Avengers and be like, a worthy person, a hero, rather than just before I see him as like a warrior. Right. He's badass, but he's not like heroic.
Yeah.
He's fighting for himself.
I had Thor at the 21st spot on my list. Moving up to the 24th spot, funny enough, we have Ant-Man, the original. We kind of already touched on it. We're not as invested into the character. Thought it was a good movie. I did enjoy the movie.
I like the shrinking aspect. The power aspect is really cool. I don't care about the villain.
Yeah. Who's the villain?
Black Jacket? Hornet?
That's right.
Yellow
that
Jacket.
Answers it all right there.
Yellow Jacket.
All right. I think kind of on the list here are first maybe controversial pick, being lower on the list than what I think most people would put it. We have Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 coming in at 23rd spot.
Yeah, I think that movie is quite a bit weaker than the first. Is that how you had it on your list?
I do have the first one higher than the second one. However, up until this point, this is our biggest difference in our opinions on the movie. I had this one at 17, and you had this one at 27. So we had a 10-spot difference on this movie, and that kind of averaged out for us, bringing it to the 23rd spot.
Yeah, my problem is that I don't have any individual allegiance or extreme love for any of the Guardians. Like, none of the Guardians by themselves. I do like them as a team, but if you made a solo movie about any of them, I would not be super excited to watch it.
But they haven't made a solo movie about them.
But I feel
so like you're just not connected to them even together as much as
I am. But if I was connected to them individually, it would be a stronger feeling towards the movie as a whole. Like their relationships are interesting.
That's kind of going into like the Avengers. You know what I mean? Like that's a team up movie. Like I don't know if we really need individual movies for the Guardians.
I don't think I'm not asking for individual movies. Certainly not. No. That's what. Yeah, that's.
I think I like them as a group, and their group individualizes them, and I like the Galaxy movies more than you.
I like the way James Gunn and the composer for that movie integrate the song choices with the film.
All right. Moving on. A total disgrace that this movie made it this high on the list. In my opinion, Thor Love and Thunder made it to the 22nd spot on our average. I can't believe you, Andrew. Now this movie is our highest difference. I had this one ranked in the deserving spot of 29th place. And you brought it all the way almost into the top 10 at 13th. What were you thinking? We had a 16-point difference on this one.
Hold on.
You do not believe that this movie is better than Guardians of the Galaxy 2?
You gotta...
Oh my gosh.
Let me defend myself. So... I put Thor Love and Thunder where on my list? 13. I put it 13.
Crazy.
So my reasoning behind this is because I think the first half of Thor Love and Thunder is garbage. It's way too comedic.
Agreed.
They gave.
You're telling me you didn't enjoy that split?
Worst part of the movie, the Van Damme split. But they gave too much creative freedom to Waititi, and it doesn't
maybe
match
even to Chris Hemsworth
it seemed like it.
Yeah.
Like he was also in control with him. They were just having fun on set doing improv like it was an SNL skit up there. But
this movie, they had a 4-hour director cut.
But listen. The second half of the movie is great, visually stunning. The black.
I don't know if it's great. Like it's better than the first part, but
to me it's great. I love the black and gray scenes in the Shadow Realm.
Yeah, that's cool, but like the story's not that good.
Well, I love that he disseminates his powers to the children and has this like full-on war. It's funny, it's cool, it looks good. The lightning charging through all of them is awesome, and then they have like this huge battle and this cathartic loss of Mighty Thor. I think there's a lot of good in the second half. Plus, Christian Bale is in this movie. I love Christian Bale.
Yeah, but he didn't really do anything in the movie. Like, he should have been a bigger part of the movie. You know, he's the best part of the movie, and I feel like it wasn't even like that good. Like I wanted more of that. You know, like I couldn't take him seriously the whole time because of the tone of the rest of the movie was like a cartoon.
I know you feel really strongly about this.
Yes, I do.
My problem.
This was not a good movie. You had this at 13th.
Well, I don't think
13th.
I don't think it definitely doesn't deserve 29th. It doesn't deserve the last place in the whole MCU.
Oh my gosh. You're blinded by Christian Bale here.
It's better than Thor: The Dark World. It makes more use of the things that are good about Thor, but it also makes way too much use of the things that they've put in bad about Thor. This was the pick I was absolutely most indecisive about. So I feel off about having it so high, but I will
better than Iron Man 3. You're crazy, man.
I will. Well, there's a lot of other filmmaking characteristics besides just the goofiness that I considered with it.
Okay, all right. Let's move on. Not to a better movie. Coming in at the 21st spot, we have Thor Ragnarok. I think I'm in the minority here. I did not like this movie as much as everyone else. I have this one ranked at the 28th spot, just above Thor Love and Thunder. I think you're seeing a theme here. You had this in 17th, you had this in 11th, which is like, again, like really high. I could see like the mid-teens getting justification, but 11th, almost breaking the top 10. So Andrew, come on.
I was talking to Zach about this. If you haven't watched all our episodes, Zach is our friend.
Zach's the man.
Zach is a Marvel stud. He knows everything about superheroes.
Stud. Yeah, he knows everything.
And he agreed with me that Thor Ragnarok is the best Thor movie. And I think a lot of people are on that team with me because Thor 2 is really bad. Thor 4, like we said, kind of tonally back and forth. But Ragnarok, I think, is the best Thor movie, and it has a lot of Hulk in it. Whereas the personalities might be not necessarily the most true to what they've shown us before, or maybe in the comics. They're playing a little bit of liberties with Hulk and Thor. But I think that it's very funny. The action is very strong, and Hela is one of the greatest villains in the MCU that we've got so far. Plus, an Oscar-winning actress playing a Marvel villain is always a win.
Yeah. I just didn't like the goofiness of it, I guess, and his character wish-washiness that he has to him. Like, he doesn't know who he is. They definitely softened the crap out of the Hulk, made him seem stupid when he was Bruce, and I just didn't like how drastic of a character change both the Hulk and Bruce Banner had and Thor. Like, it was like watching a completely different movie. And I understand why people really like it. I do. I see it. And I definitely think this one is way better than Love and Thunder. But I just don't enjoy it as much as the other videos. With that said, I do like this movie, just not as much compared to the other MCU movies.
I think a lot of the critiques of Ragnarok are defendable when you look at it through a certain lens. I see the personality shift in Thor as the Americanization of Thor because of the time he's been spending with Jane Foster and his friends, Tony Stark and Steve. And then I see the changes in the Hulk being from, identity crisis and spending so much time in the Hulk form. Now as Bruce Banner, he's kind of shocked and dazed and confused. I think they're defendable, but they are also not my favorite thing either.
Yeah. All right, moving on. We have the 20th spot. We have Doctor Strange, Multiverse of Madness. This is a relatively new movie. What'd you think of it?
Multiverse of Madness is probably my second hardest one to place other than Thor Love and Thunder. I've had some of the least time to sit with those two movies. And Multiverse of Madness, I also think, has a lot of things I love and some things that kind of annoy me.
Yeah, we were 11 spots different on this one. I had it at 25th place, and you had it at the 14th place.
I'm very attracted to the new ability Marvel has of letting directors put their own touch on movies and feeling the unique style of a director like Sam Raimi. I like that. I also don't like how, simultaneously, I feel off-put by how it's tonally off from other areas of the franchise. So that's why I'm kind of torn up about some of these things. Like some of the more...
I feel like that's my issue with the two latest Thor movies,
is Taika Waititi's paintbrush is all over them.
Right.
But the same thing here with Sam Raimi. There's like the classical horror, his low budget horror vibe on some of the things. The practical elements they use on Doctor Strange's face at the end is very Sam Raimi-esque. Understandable since he's the one directing the movie. He can do what he wants with it. But I think that it was really, Wanda is hands down one of, if not the best villains we've got in the MCU. Her portrayal in that movie and her acting is incredible. You're with her, locked in with her every second of every scene where she's portrayed. You feel her rage and her emotion. I think that really elevates the movie. I've never been that connected to Doctor Strange himself as a character. I don't love his magic because I feel like it can do whatever, and it can also not do whatever the writers want it to do at any given moment. So I feel like there's no rules. I feel like Wanda's more bound by her powers can do the same things.
Right. I think one of my biggest harps on the movie was maybe not so much of the different accent marks that we got from Rami, but more so the overpowered Scarlet Witch that we got, because at no point in the movie did I believe Doctor Strange was ever going to beat her. And to me, that made me feel like, oh, any way that they solve this problem of stopping Scarlet Witch is not going to be satisfying, because I don't believe that he can,
Yeah, I think they went about it in a cool way that was like a character developing moment for America Chavez, though. So yeah, they kind of had her defeat herself, which it's kind of was their only solution with them making her so powerful. But sometimes I feel like that route's not as impactful,
Yeah.
Whether if you trick the villain into defeating themselves or they choose to defeat themselves, it's kind of like an odd win.
Right, exactly. Again, good movie. I enjoyed it. I liked watching it. Going to our 19th spot, we have Eternals.
I think I had Eternals relatively low on my list. I had it at 21.
Yeah, so we had a 6 placing difference, and I had it at 15th. So some stats on our list, if you will. We had, on average, a 5.75 difference in opinion on our ranking list. So, example, if I placed one at 20, yours was either at 15 or 25. So I feel like almost a 6-point difference is a pretty high number, especially because I consider us kind of liking similar things,
Yeah.
So I was kind of surprised by that number.
Well, some of these movies for me very narrowly edge out one another.
Yeah.
So the ranking is still close. So it still could mean we like a lot of the movies close.
Right.
But just one's got to go in that next spot.
Yeah, I don't know about you, but I looked up a big list of all the movies, and then I kind of was like, this one's probably somewhere in the teens. This one I like a little bit better. And I kind of just sort of randomly put them in spots and then adjusted them as needed. But it's a hard task ranking something like this.
I went in order and put a movie down on the list, and then each movie after that either put it above, below, or in between based on what I thought it was better than. Mm-hmm. So I would put Captain America, and then I would put Captain Marvel below or above it, and just keep doing that. And then I put numbers next to all of them.
Gotcha. I like it. At the 18th spot, our first movie that we agreed on, we have Doctor Strange. We both had this in the 18th spot.
Yeah, it's our only one where we ranked it at the exact same spot, isn't it?
We had 2.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so this is our first one.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a pretty fair spot for Doctor Strange to belong in number 18, relatively middle of the pack. It's a good movie. I'd say like everything about it is good. I'm not saying exceptional, besides maybe special effects. Mm-hmm. Their use of, displaying the magic is pretty incredible, but the, action is good. The story is good. I think the villain is kind of nondescript, a big floating face in the sky that's defeated again with a loophole rather than actually fighting it.
Yeah. I like this movie better the second time that I watched it,
It's a good origin story, but Dormammu falls pretty flat for me.
Yeah. I feel like sometimes origin stories can hit or miss, in terms of like they could either be really good or they're like,
Yeah.
I'm glad the origin's over, so now we can get into the real action, Kind of like our next one, Captain America, the First Avenger. Good origin story, It's not my favorite Captain America movie.
It's another movie similar to the first Thor, where upon more rewatches, I like it more and more. There's a lot of gritty war elements to this movie, and there's a lot of like moral backbone to the story as well with Steve Rogers of like other guys are going out there and giving their lives. I got no right to do anything less, and like it makes you love him. It's an origin story that makes you love the character, and that's what origin story should be meant to do.
Yeah, and this was like the first movie that I remember like, oh, they're leading to the Avengers. How cool is that? You know?
It's good marketing by Marvel, even putting make specifically the first Avenger in the title.
Right.
It's definitely draws us into the idea of the team up early on.
Right. Because before that, it kind of seemed like almost like rumors, like, oh, like maybe these movies are connected. How cool would that be? You know, especially someone who didn't come originally from the comic background. You know.
Yeah.
And watching these movies, getting introduced to the characters from the movies. All right, yeah, so I had that one at 20th. You had that one at 16th. Moving up one spot into our 16th place, we have Captain Marvel. I have that one at 14th, and you brought the average down because you put it in 20th.
It's a movie that I enjoy. The 20th spot's still a movie that I enjoy, but I have not found myself going back to rewatch Captain Marvel in the same way as the other movies that I have higher on my list. I like Jude Law as a villain. I like Brie Larson is one of the best castings to me in the MCU. I love her as Captain Marvel.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of people don't, and I don't see it either. I enjoy
don't know.
her.
She's badass. She comes off so tough. Her and Wanda both.
Moving on to the 15th spot, we have Iron Man 3. This is the first time that Iron Man's made our list, so we obviously hold these movies at a high standard. I put this one at 16th, and you put this one at 15th, so very close in opinion on Iron Man 3.
Yeah, I probably love Iron Man 3 more than the average bear.
Me too. I like it.
I saw it in theaters 3 times, once in 3D.
Really?
Yes.
3 times, man.
Yeah, which is, I think, the most I've seen any Marvel movie in theater, any movie in theaters, probably. It came out around Christmas. I was really excited. I think it had a really good trailer.
The trailer was awesome.
I ended up seeing it with like a family member, a friend. And
Lesson number 1.
The Mandarin. I mean, I see people's critiques for this movie. I really, truly do. The Mandarin's a letdown.
Oh, for sure.
You had Ben Kingsley playing the Mandarin. The
first half of the movie, great. You said, the second half of the movie kind of takes a step or 2 back.
I like Guy Pearce, but the villain really, if you're going to build up the villain to be the Mandarin, it's going to be a letdown to your fans if you pull a switcheroo on them. And I mean, Ben Kingsley in the first place is an interesting choice to play the Mandarin.
And like I enjoy being surprised, you know, but I wish it was like a smaller villain or something, you know, to where it wasn't the Mandarin, because I was very excited from the trailers and stuff to see them kind of duke it out, you know, and we didn't really get that.
But think about all the strengths of this movie. I could go on and on. The movie
same. I love this movie.
Is the first appearance of the Mark 42 suit, which is like my favorite Iron Man suit, probably. It's so incredible the way that he draws it to him. There's so many biblical parallels in this movie for Tony Stark. You've got him dragging the empty Iron Man suit the same way that Jesus carried the cross. There's coming out around Christmas time in the story. There's a bunch of biblical lines that he references throughout the movie. And there's kind of this theme of like rebirth in the movie as well, the destruction of all the suits. And in the House Party Protocol, he destroys them and is reborn. He takes the thing out of his chest. So there's like really smart filmmaking in this movie. And I just thoroughly enjoy the relationship between Tony and the young kid. It's super funny.
Did a good job.
Yeah, one of the funniest movies in the franchise. Great action. I'll go to my grave defending this take. But Iron Man 3 also shows us Tony proving he's worthy without the suit, proving he's more than a guy in a tin can, using his wits, using, his physical skills outside of the suit. And I think it's a huge character developing moment for him, just showing who Tony Stark is, not just Iron Man.
Yep. We're about halfway through our MCU ranking. If you listen this far, we really appreciate it. Go ahead and give us a review. If you love this podcast, hit 5 stars. If you hate it, hit 1 stars and get out of here.
keep coming back. See if you change your mind.
Yeah. Let us know what we can do different if you really hate it.
Yeah, we're here for constructive criticism.
If it's Andrew's hair, I know. I've been trying to get him to clean it up, but it's just what he wants.
If I seem too much like I was bullied in high school, you can let us know in the comments. It's good. But we put out new episodes every Monday and Thursday. We appreciate anyone who listens.
All right, moving on to our 14th spot. We have one of my favorite characters showing up in this movie, because it's his movie. We have Spider-Man Far From Home.
This is the first Spider-Man movie on our list?
It is indeed. So I had this one at 19th, actually, and you brought the average up by placing it in 12th.
You're welcome, Spider-Man. Spider-Man's one of my favorite superheroes of all time. This movie has...
I think it's safe to say he is my favorite superhero of all time.
Well, you put him in 19th, so...
The movie, not him.
But I think that this movie has Jake Gyllenhaal in it, which is a huge draw for me. I think he's a really incredible actor, and I see why he was attracted to the character of Mysterio. I think there are some actors in the MCU who are kind of wasted on their roles, who are too good for maybe the part that they're in. But I think Mysterio was a really juicy part, and I think this was a good movie, a better movie because of the performance.
Yeah, I think that's kind of one of the major critiques of the MCU is that they kill off all their really good villains in one movie. You know, so like we only got to see Jake Gyllenhaal once.
Yeah.
You know, we probably only going to see Christian Bale once.
They really should have faked his death. He is Mysterio. I mean.
Right. All right, moving back up, we were just talking about his third movie. We have Iron Man 2 in the 13th spot on our list. I had this one ranked at 12th, bringing our average up, because you had this one at 19th.
It is my least favorite of the Iron Man movies. I still think it's good. The villain's pretty interesting. Whiplash is really cool. It's cool to watch him fight. But it's a little bit more forgettable to me than the other movies. It's cool to see Rhodey put on the Iron Patriot suit for the first time, or War Machine at that time.
Dude, the fight between them two when he first got into the suit, I think is pretty awesome. When they're in his house, and Iron Man, Tony Stark, has no care in the world that he's like destroying his mansion, fighting his best friend. It's a cool story arc.
Yeah, he's going through a lot in that movie. So it's a good character development chance for Tony.
Moving up to the list, I kind of saved everyone here, bringing Guardians of the Galaxy up to the 12th spot. I had this one ranked 8th on my list, so it broke the top 10 for me, and I think it's deserving of that. Andrew brought this one down to the 22nd spot, and this was another one of our biggest kind of differences in 14th. I think this movie's kind of received highly across the fan base of the MCU. Andrew, why do you have it so low?
Same thing as I said before. I'm just not as connected to the characters. My biggest thing in a movie is the characters. If I don't
like the group the characters as a group just doesn't like interest you at all.
It interests me, but I would rather see like almost any other character than the Guardians.
Weird. You're so weird.
They're funny, but what are they deeper than that? Like below the surface? I don't know.
Yeah.
They've got one character who's like, they've got characters who are legitimately only sarcastic, and then a character who can't say any lines. I love that Vin Diesel voices Groot. It's hilarious, but it's just funny. I don't feel the depth. What I do love is the scene in Endgame where Star-Lord is promised to kill Gamora, and he's actually willing to do it, because that feels like a really deep bond between them, that he trusts her of what she wants him to do and doing what's right for like the galaxy. That's a very emotional scene, and I do really like that interaction.
All right, moving up our list here, we have in the 11th spot, Spider-Man Homecoming, the first Spider-Man movie in the MCU. I had this one at the 10th spot, partially because I love Spider-Man so much, and you had this at the 17th spot.
Yeah, I think that I like Spider-Man Far From Home better than Spider-Man Homecoming, but I think Spider-Man Homecoming is still really good. Neither of the movies really focus on New York itself, which is a bummer for a Spider-Man story. But Far From Home gives us a lot of cool, like, European scenes, like really a lot for the eyes. Homecoming is kind of like a little more nondescript in that facet, but it's cool to see him learn. I think upon a rewatch, I was less inclined to just think that they were making him a bad Spider-Man and more inclined to think they were showing us a young kid learning, because you'd really, when I rewatch, I notice he doesn't know how to use the different types of the web bomb, and then later in the film he uses them to the their actual purpose.
I think the issue for that film for you is that they didn't have a training montage in there.
They don't show really. He uses them wrong and then he uses them right to indicate that he has increased judgment.
I think that's an interesting point that you mentioned, that we didn't get to see the character of New York City kind of be in the story in either of these two films that we've talked about so far. And I think that's why Spider-Man Homecoming is at the 10th spot for me instead of higher, because I really, really like Spider-Man, and it has the potential to be, for me, in the top 5 for sure. But I feel like we were missing that with both of those Spider-Man movies, Homecoming and Far From Home, that we just didn't get to see the web swinger swinging through buildings and stuff like that, interacting with people in the streets and having a lot of witty comments as he's fighting criminals.
The people of New York are a really strong character in the other Spider-Man's movies. Like their own entity.
Yeah, like Raimi's Spider-Man and The Amazing Spider-Man.
The scene where they're all throwing stuff at the Green Goblin, or the scene where they line up all the cranes in the first Amazing Spider-Man movie.
Yeah.
Their presence is felt, his connection with the actual, like, bones of the city.
Right. I agree. Okay. 10th spot overall for our average. We have Spider-Man No Way Home.
That feels low.
Let's find out why here. I have this one ranked at 19th.
Oof.
And you have this one ranked at 12th.
You're going to sit here. You're going to sit here in your ivory tower in that chair over there and tell me you think that Spider-Man Homecoming is a better movie than No Way Home?
A better movie? Yes. Better. I think Far From Home is really good because we got to see all the hype be true, all the rumors be true, that we got all that we wanted in terms of the cameos with the 2 other Spider-Mans, with Daredevil having a small little role in it. But as a complete movie, I like Homecoming better, but I enjoy watching them both.
Man.
Does that make sense?
It makes sense, but I harshly disagree. I mean, No Way Home just has so many better moments to me than Homecoming and keeps me locked in so much more. No Way Home has Charlie Cox's Daredevil in it.
Oh, I'm sorry. Did I say that this one was at 19th?
Yes.
For me, no. I had this one at 13th. I was looking at Far From
Okay.
I was looking, Far From Home.
Way more fair.
No Way Home, I had at the 13th spot, and you had at the 7th spot, which makes more sense, giving it the average of the 10th spot. But I still agree that I still have it ranked lower than Spider-Man Homecoming on my list.
I think it's the best Tom Holland Spider-Man movie we've got, giving him the best chance to act and stretch his legs, losing his Aunt May, and all the grief that he's going through, losing all his friends and their memory of him.
I could definitely get persuaded pretty easily to move this one up my list, because you're right, we do get to see kind of a darker Spider-Man, which is fun to kind of see the range of emotion on a character, rather than just someone always being like the hero or being someone who's learning how to be a hero. But we get to see I don't even care anymore. I'm just gonna kill this guy.
He tells Green Goblin, "I'm gonna kill you. I just wanted to kill you with my own hands."
Yeah.
He's a menace in that movie.
Yeah. I could definitely be persuaded to bring this one up higher on my list. Moving on to our 9th spot, our second in our top 10, we have Avengers 2012.
Which is a flagship movie for the franchise. I think absolutely it would be a mistake to not put it in the top 10. That movie launched everything. Did I not put it in my top 10?
Nope, you did. I had this one at the 9th spot, which is the same as our average, and you had this one spot higher than me in the 8th spot.
Okay, thank goodness. I think it absolutely belongs in there in the top 10.
Agreed.
It's, it's set up so many beautiful character relationships, the dichotomy between Iron Man and Cap, and then the relationship's best friendship between Iron Man and Hulk. I mean, so many good, like, friendships built. There's, little ties for things coming later, like Civil War, a great fight between so many people, fight between Hulk and Thor, and it's like the flagship movie. It's the movie that proved they could do the MCU and make it work.
Exactly. It was their proof of concept that ended up turning into a multi-billion-dollar money-making machine.
I think it's the next biggest thing since the first Iron Man working. That was the next big step. It was their next mountaintop to crush.
Right, for sure. And they did a really good job of balancing the screen time of all these characters. And we were already introduced to these characters, so we had a good understanding of who everyone was. So then we could kind of dive into the actual story at hand.
Yeah, even though Hawkeye and Black Widow didn't have movies, they had, and Nick Fury, they all had appearances in other films.
Right, which is what we've been talking about the DCU needs to do. Moving on to the 8th spot, we have Black Panther.
Dun, 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 dun.
So I had this one ranked 5th, and you had this one ranked 10th.
Yeah, I think Black Panther is a really great movie and a huge achievement in terms of the cultural impact that it has. Ryan Coogler made a big, statement, a big stamp on this when he put this movie out into the world. And obviously, you have one of the best castings in the MCU for Black Panther. And
the soundtrack is awesome.
The sound very identifiable. The score,
yes.
the drums, it feels like Black Panther. And then they have great storytelling and an incredible villain. Killmonger is one of the best villains in the MCU.
Yeah, I'm surprised you have this. I say low, but I'm surprised you have it as low as 10th place.
Well, I've got some heavy hitters for me above it. So,
all right, moving on to our next one, we have our 7th average pick of Shang-Chi.
I love Shang-Chi. Love me some Shang-Chi. Which one of us had it higher? I had Shang-Chi at 9.
I had this one at 6.
I think that Shang-Chi is another awesome cultural achievement. The first lead role for an Asian character in a superhero film. What needs to be said about this movie other than the fight choreography?
Yeah, that's what I was going to say next.
That's the number one thing you
For sure. It was really unique and cool to kind of see how they took a lot of inspiration from Jackie Chan and stuff like that. And they tied it into the MCU in a seamless way. It didn't seem over the top or wow, this is so different than what I'm used to watching. But it was different, but just different enough. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and then Simu Liu being a martial artist and also being incredibly cast in the role of Shang-Chi.
You seen his behind the scenes stuff?
I love it.
It's so cool to watch him kind of go through the different fights and stuff, and it's man, I believe that this guy could be doing this stuff.
He's incredible, dude. He's also very funny. He's super multi-talented because martial artist, the choreography, the acting. He's funny. He dances. He does these skits and things.
Which a lot of the fights feel like a dance. Too. So.
He's very smooth, and also the moments when he gets serious, even though he can be funny, the moments where he gets serious are very. You feel the weight and intensity. I love the scene on the bus when that goon pushes Katie and his reaction of just rage. That's a great scene.
Yeah, he has a good balance in his emotional identity. Mm-hmm. He can be that funny guy who's cracking jokes, but then he can be that serious guy. And I feel like that's kind of where the Thor: Love and Thunder kind of falls flat for me, because it's which is he? Is he just this goofball, or is he this fierce warrior that's been alive for thousands of years?
Their problem is they undercut every serious moment. There's no moment to breathe between their jokes, whether they land or not.
But Shang-Chi did a good job at that. Moving on to our 6th spot, we have Avengers Endgame.
Ah, yes. Very low for Avengers Endgame. I think we're going to catch some flack.
Yeah, so the reason for that was myself. You had this one ranked really high at the 3rd spot, your podium finisher. And I had this one just outside the top 10 at the 11th spot.
So what would your critique be? Because I know there's a lot of slow moments in the movie.
I'm okay with the slow moments, I think. It does a good job of like telling the story. I think out of all the other movies, there's a lot of like questions that could arise. Kind of like you said with magic, like there's a lot of questions of his powers, of like it kind of seems to be able to do whatever or not whatever the writers feel. And I kind of feel the same way towards time travel.
Yeah.
Things just kind of tend to get a little messy with that. With all that said, though, I still really enjoyed the film. I mean, it's at 11th on my list. You know, like it's really cool to see him go back in time and like do the stone heist or whatnot, and like that's super cool. I enjoyed that part.
One of my biggest critiques with the balancing of the thing of whether things make sense would probably be how Thor is able to one shot a fully powered up Thanos with 5 stones, but with both Mjolnir and Stormbreaker, he's not able to fight Thanos with no gauntlet at all. Thanos somehow is stronger without the gauntlet in this movie and fights all the strongest heroes together, whereas they were spread out in Infinity War. That I don't understand. I get why they had to do it. I don't think they made it make sense. But also some of the biggest cinematic moments in my lifetime, like Cap picking up the hammer, you can't really negate that. It's, you know, it's
super cool. We could definitely talk about this movie for an entire episode, as we could for all of these movies. If there's any particular movie that the audience would like to hear us kind of break down and dive in more into, leave a comment down below and we'll make that episode happen. In our 5th spot, we have Iron Man.
Started it all. I think Iron Man, when you look at it, is one of the best made movies in the franchise, flat out. Just in terms of a movie, not looking at it as a superhero movie or MCU movie. I just think it's really well made, and it has one of the most incredible character journeys from this selfish person, arrogant person, to still an arrogant person, but
we
caring about the world.
We talked about the origin stories kind of either hitting or missing, to where it's like either really good, really great, or it's kind of boring and like, man, I really wish we got to see more of the actual hero, because 80% of the film was him trying to figure out the powers and all that stuff, and we only really got to see the hero for the last 20%. With this one, I think it knocked it out of the park, like you said, and it kick-started it all. Yeah. So off of that alone, it has and deserves a high spot on our rankings list. I had this one at 4th, you had this one at 6th, so pretty close to each other.
It's like the best origin story in the MCU, honestly.
Oh, by far, for sure. Coming in at the 4th place, something that is a bit of a disappointment for Andrew. We have Avengers Age of Ultron, again at the 4th place. I had this one at 7th. Andrew, where and why did you have this ranked on your list?
Avengers Age of Ultron is the #1 best movie in the MCU. And I will tell you why. I'll put on a clinic right now. People underappreciate the hell out of this movie.
The best video or best movie?
Best movie in the MCU.
Age of Ultron.
Age of Ultron. It's got an incredible villain, James Spader as Ultron. Awesome voice, very intimidating. He has clear objectives and goals, and you understand why. You have a villain who's created by our heroes, so you have a moral conundrum there. This movie builds towards everything that we love about the MCU. It builds towards the dichotomy of the argument for the Sokovia Accords with Sokovia. It builds towards the butting heads of Cap and Iron Man. It builds towards all these new characters, like it shows us Quicksilver, it shows us Wanda. This builds towards metahumans. It does so much building, not to mention the actual fight between the Hulkbuster armor and Hulk.
Let's go!
That is one of the best fights in the MCU, and it looks stunning. Tony actually wins that fight, which is awesome. And like they really make him work for it. The end of this movie is like a 30-40 minute fight on a floating meteor barreling down towards Earth on Sokovia. Like that's an epic ending, and like we see everyone, in my opinion, kind of at the peak of their character development, or the peak and their peak of their aesthetic suits.
Definitely my favorite Thor. Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, like you said, everyone's at their peak.
Best Tony, best Cap. I like the line. I like the line where Cap says, "If you get killed, walk it off."
The last real time. That was good. The last real time that we got to see the Hulk be the Hulk.
Yeah, the Hulk was still in rage. In the rage form Hulk, we have a Thor that I think is the perfect blend of funny and badass. Like, that is the peak Thor to me. I think it's all the characters at their best written. I see the critiques people have. I really do. They're, with some...
Screw them, they're wrong. I don't see it. This is a great movie. Everyone has this way low on their list.
This is my top pick. I think it belongs in number 1, and I think it's grossly underappreciated.
Yeah, I had this at 7, so really high on my list as well. I enjoy this movie. I watched it right before one of my weightlifting competitions. It got me pumped up and ready to rock. It's a good movie.
It builds towards the Infinity Stones. Like, it builds towards so much.
It shows the tension between Iron Man and Captain America.
Goes right into Civil War.
Man, yeah. Great movie. Highly underappreciated, like you said.
There's high-level philosophical questions in this movie, too. Like, where should heroes be able to go? What should they be able to do? Is, like, the concept of creating artificial intelligence, like Ultron, and the ways that it can go good or bad, like Vision versus Ultron.
Yeah.
The ideas of freedom versus oppression, because you have that beautifully shot scene between Vision and Ultron in the woods where he says, "Well, I was born yesterday." Like, Vision is a champion of the beauty in the faults of humanity. It's a great movie.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, the time has come. The moment that you've been waiting for. We have our top 3 picks, our podium picks of the MCU. Coming in third place, getting the bronze medal of our average, we have Captain America Civil War.
Which, in my opinion, should be called Avengers Civil War. This movie is about as much a Captain America movie as...
It was a great Avengers movie, and there was no Thor in sight.
Is that your favorite thing about it?
It probably. Could you imagine if Ragnarok Thor was in there? Like, oh my gosh, it would have lowered the movie for sure.
The tone of this movie was very serious, and it's a movie that, like, raises moral questions, like we were just talking about. You actually have to wonder who's in the right in this movie, who's breaking up the team, and it pits, like, 2 good friends against each other. So it's super emotional.
Yeah, it tears you in half as the viewer.
Yeah.
Of, like, I have watched how many movies of these 2 characters? Like, at least 8, right?
Yeah.
At this point. Like, I really love this character. I really
15,
love that character.
12.
And it's like a pull back and forth of, like, who's right, who's wrong, who do I agree with more? Oh, I agree with him about this, but I agree with the other about this. Like, who do I want to win here? Like, you don't really know the whole time. And I think that's one of the strongest attractions to this movie, in my opinion. I had this in the 3rd spot. It got the bronze medal on my list as well. You had it not too far off at the 5th spot.
Oh, it's so hard to rank them.
Oh, man, you're telling me. Coming in at 2nd place, we have another Captain America movie, Captain America: The Winter Soldier. This movie was number 1 on my list. It took the gold spot. It was a great action superhero film that was grounded, and it felt like a good spy movie. I loved when he's kind of sneaking around. The fight scene on the bridge where Winter Soldier just slams on the car, rips the steering wheel out. You see Anthony Mackie's face go, like, as that happened. And then of course, epic fight when they're down under the bridge and he's going back and forth. You have the iconic move where Winter Soldier drops the knife, catches the knife, and continues through. The action is very, like, in your face, but the camera, the way they shot it, you can see and know what's going on the whole time. We also got to see a lot of Nick Fury, which is awesome. Again, that spy tone that this movie had, I really enjoyed. And then also kind of the mystery around the Winter Soldier, and then we kind of get that true anti-hero. Is he a villain? Is he a hero? Oh my gosh, that's his best friend. Like, it kind of creates and builds up, like you were saying with Ultron, it builds up a lot of to come of the issues between Iron Man and Captain America.
Yeah, I think that they the Russo brothers who directed this movie did a very incredible job of taking a theme or a format like a spy thriller and combining it with the superhero genre, and it wasn't at the cost of anything to the character origins, the overall tone of the universe. It stuck with all of it and just built in the spy elements in a beautiful way.
We also got to be introduced to the Falcon, who is taking up the mantle of Captain America. So second place, well deserving. I think it deserves one place higher, but that's all right. The first place pick is also well deserving of the gold, and we have Avengers Infinity War atop our list.
Yeah, this was really high on both our lists for good reason. Infinity War is number 2 on my list.
And number 2 on my list being the second movie that we agreed on in positioning on our list, and it averaged out to be the top.
Yeah, I think that this movie, Infinity War, is probably one of, if not the most common favorite MCU movie.
I was on the edge of my seat the whole time, and when it ended and everyone just kind of turned to dust, I was like, oh my gosh, why is it ending? I'm ready to sit here for 3 more hours. Give it to me. Why are you cutting this into 2 movies?
Yeah, people crying in the theater. Is super emotional. Everyone's dying at the end. Luckily, they only made us wait a year for the sequel, for the finale.
Like, it's so hard to capture someone's attention, for especially nowadays when we have phones and all this stuff that is demanding our attention. But for a movie to capture our attention for 2.5 hours plus, and then to want us and leave us wanting more, that's incredible, right? Like, not many movies can do that.
Yeah, the only drawback to this movie for me is they separate, like, some of my favorite characters. They take...
Oh, like you wanted to see them interact together?
Yeah, Tony and Peter are both on Titan, on Thanos' home planet, and then everyone else is on Earth. So they kind of created that divide, but I understand why they did it. I think that it made for a very interesting story, and this movie has some of the best action in the whole universe. The movie is this huge grand scale undertaking that they brought so many huge names and big actors together, big characters, and put them all on screen together. So it's...
Again, they balanced the screen time of all the characters really well. They didn't have anyone kind of like hogging the attention. You know, it seemed very effortless, and every interaction that we got with the characters seemed meaningful to the story. I have a question for you about this movie. So throughout our list, you've had Guardians of the Galaxy kind of low on our list. Not that you didn't like them necessarily, but they just weren't your favorites compared to other characters in other movies. Now, they're in this movie. When they were on the screen, were you like, man, I can't wait for them to kind of cut away from them and go back to the characters I like? Or were you invested in the story with them on the screen?
When they pop up on the screen, their first appearance in that movie, and they're singing Rubber Man, I'm like, wish it was other characters. When they're on Titan interacting with Iron Man and Peter Parker, then I really enjoy having them like the back and forth.
Okay, cool. And like same for me, like I enjoyed the spots where we got to see Thor, and I think this was too before like Thor kind of changed completely. But yeah, this movie is well deserving of the first place spot. A few other movies could probably also take the crown as well. Let us know what your number 1 spot would be, and what's your podium pick for the MCU movies. We want to hear your opinions on our picks and what you think of our picks as well. Go ahead and trash Andrew in the comments. Go ahead and make fun of me in the comments. Let us know what you think. Thank you everyone for listening.
And
that's a wrap.